Hello and welcome to the Feedback Show. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Welcome to another Feedback Show. I don't think we've done two in quick succession as this for a long time.
No, we haven't.
But we've had so many requests come in that I was down, so I thought, well, let's do another one.
That's right.
And these seemed like these are really helping, judging by what people's feedback has been. So, we're more than happy to help.
Good. Yes, well, I'm ready and willing to go.
Right then, let's get started with a couple of pictures from Maureen. She said, "Hi Stephen, I'm sending two pictures to you that I did before I joined. Both were my first attempts. My main areas that I have trouble with are the eyes in animals and the shading." So Maureen's done the Border Collie and the Kitten, both free courses off our website.
Yes, and I can understand where you're coming from. It's probably quite hard because what you've got to judge is how much colour do you put under the dark shading that you're going to put on? Well, if you've seen, well, you would have seen now, as you've joined us, as many eyes as you can. I would view as many eyes, just get to the eyes on all the animals, and you'll see exactly where you're going wrong. And you'll see that when I do it, I just put a minimum amount of shading on the top half of the eye, or base colour, should I say.
Yeah.
Because if you put too much on, as we're going to see later on with another picture that's been done, as soon as you put a lot of light colours underneath, you're never going to get the dark on top. So you've got to preempt that. You've got to think, when you're doing the shading, you've got to think, now I'm putting the ivory in and I'm putting the ochre in and whatever other colour you're putting in. I can't put all those colours on the top half of the eye. I've got to restrict it. So you put the darker of those tones in. Okay, you don't put the ivory in at all. You just put the next colour you're going to use. And you don't put it in very strong. And then gradually you can then do what I've done. And you only got to watch that again, those two videos again. Watch me do the eye. You'll see what I'm doing. I know we've had questions about pressure. How much pressure do you put on? I would say you put the minimum amount of pressure on. If you put too much pressure, you're going to crush the paper. So the minimum amount. Pastel pencils are very responsive and you don't need it. But if you've got a too light a colour or a medium colour and you try to make that darker by pressing harder, that's when the mistake comes in.
You use darker tones to darker
tones for it, yeah. But this comes with experience, and you'll find if you do what I said, Maureen, you'll find you'll get it.
Okay, that sounds like that's going to be a general theme.
I think, though, in all honesty, you've done very well for before you joined us. You've done a couple of good pictures before you joined. I can see why you have joined us now.
And it never ceases to amaze me how good people's first attempts are at this medium.
Absolutely.
We were talking the other day about your first work. You had some really nice comments on your YouTube saying, "Oh, I'd never be able to do that." And you were like, "Oh, you want to see my first pictures?"
Absolutely. They were terrible pictures. I would have given up if I hadn't had that sort of... I had a gallery at the time, and I was selling other people's work. But my first work that I did, I wouldn't show anybody. Not to start with, I wouldn't put it on here, that's for sure. And have me pull it to bits. No. But gradually, if you stick at it, you get there in the end.
Lovely work. Thanks, Maureen. And enjoy the membership. Enjoy indulging yourself in all of the pictures that we have on there. The next one's from Maria. Maria said, "Hello, Colin and Steve. Can I have some feedback on the attached lion drawing? I found it very, very challenging. This is my fourth pastel drawing, and I'm not sure whether I'm improving or not, but I will keep trying. I'm really enjoying your tuition, Colin, and the podcasts. So interesting and inspiring, and I think I'm starting to understand some of your logic so far as the base colours are concerned. I wish I started art earlier in life. I'm now 65, but I love it. With best wishes, Maria."
Okay. Well, the thing you would see immediately here is chalk and cheese comes to mind. You've got one colour, then you've got another colour. But what we want is a lot of subtle changes. Let's just take one little section of it, Steve, around the this bit on mine.
And here.
Now, what Maria's done is really good on the left eye, above the left eye. She's done that really well. But look around that, you'll see on my picture, there's a lot of subtle changes. If you look at mine, keep looking backwards and forwards. And basically you've got it, and you would see it like you've got it there. But if you look at mine, you'll see there's very subtle changes of tone, especially above the eye where you've got the greys in. And it's the change between the darker and the light. This is where a lot of people have a problem. They've either got to put it dark, they've got to put a colour in, and that's the colour it's going to be, and then alongside it they put another light colour, and that's the colour it's going to be. Well, between the two, there's always a transition. You'll see it. You see it on the right-hand side, but you see it on all of the animal pictures that I do. You'll see that, and gradually you will understand that, well, you are already getting it, and it will become. The problem you have when you take the chalk and cheese approach is everything looks flat. If you look at your picture, it looks as though you've ironed it. You see what I mean? It's nice and flat. Whereas if you look at mine, it's rounded. I hope you understand that.
Yeah.
It's not easy to understand and it's not easy to get. Now I pointed it out to you, you're probably thinking, oh, yeah, you're right. This rounded, you've got to make a thing look round.
Yeah, what the bit that stands out to me is weirdly enough, the thing on your picture that appears obvious to me that helps the snout, I think that's right, the snout come forward, is like this area and this area. Like you just got real subtle changes in tone that sort of pop it forward. But you can't really explain, like, and I suppose it's down to experience and doing all the practice and all of this kind of thing to get that subtlety. But
well, what you're saying on Maria's, the top of Maria's snout, but the reason that doesn't look right isn't because she's done that wrong, but she hasn't got the colours
blended
around it.
Right.
See, like I have. There's not a lot of difference between Maria's top of the snout, or top of the nose, and mine. Not a lot. But it's the surround that's creating the problem.
I see.
Chalk and cheese, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Chalk, cheese.
Yeah.
You need the subtle changes. A good lesson, though.
Yeah.
Now I pointed it out to you, you're thinking, oh, why did I make that mistake? You didn't make a mistake, you just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, you've got to see it. I try to point it out when I'm doing the videos, but it's not always... I usually flick across that and say, this is what you do, folks. There, now, next thing. You think, oh, what did you say?
Yeah, not an easy picture, I'd have to say.
Wow, a fourth attempt, blimey.
You know, you jump straight in there.
But it's not a bad thing to do that. It's not a bad thing to do that, to go for it, because you've done something that is really hard and you've made a reasonable job of it. And now I'm telling you, you can make a better job of it. And I think if you did it again, you would be able to do that now.
Excellent. Well done, Maria. Good job. Okay, something away from feedback now. Rob sent in this picture of his grandson, and he said he would like to do this picture, but he has no idea on how to choose the right colours for the job. Have you got any hints or tips on doing this? It doesn't look like an easy picture, if you ask me.
No.
Wet hair, you know.
That's not so bad. I can cope with the wet hair side of it. Yeah, I'll tell you how to do that. Actually, I'll tell you how to do it now before we start. You use the colour shaper more.
I see.
You see, what you've got to do, you know, we were talking about the other picture, look flat. Well, this has got to look flat. There's the idea of it looking flat. So you don't want any puffy roundness.
Yeah.
You've got to look flat, and the colour shaper will do that for you. So there, you need the colour shapers on that. Or your finger. If you haven't got a colour shaper, you use a finger. You've just got to blend that so it's smooth. As far as portrait is concerned, they're always difficult. But you can have a good crack at this. What you've got to look at, though, first of all, you know what I would do on a situation like this, if you're learning, is put that through on your computer, if your computer will do such a thing, and produce it as a black and white photocopy. Right? Yeah. Put it in.
Turn it into black and white.
Turn it into black and white. What you've got to do then is look at that black and white picture and see all the subtle changes that occur.
Right.
Because black and white gives you all of these middle tones that you won't see when you look at that. You think, oh, that's pink. That's a darker pink. But there's lots of changes in between the two. But when you're learning, that's something I did when I first started.
That's why a lot of people come from graphite and find they do a really good job because they understand time.
Exactly. They understand that they have to do it with graphite. If you've got black and white, look at Hopalong Cassidy.
Yeah.
last week. People have seen that picture. How would you, on earth, would you get those subtle changes? It's because you can work the grey tones in different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, coming back to that would help if you did that. Then you would understand when you come to putting the colour on that you put the whites and the ivories where you need to put it in. Then the pinks, that's the 132 is an ideal colour. Now on the darker tones, you just need to use the darker pinks. 189 comes into play, 131, but you've got to be careful with 131. It's a little bit too pink.
Yeah.
But as long as you balance it, greys come into play as well. And I would use with children, you have a greater translucency to the skin. So it's a good idea to put a grey on. And I would use, in this case, I would use, well, you could use either 270 or 270 or 230. Certainly just under the eye, where you've got the pink under the eye on the skin, that looks to me like 230, so stick to 230 on that. Just add a little bit of that to your mix.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go into the stronger colours, like 187 probably would be a good colour to mix. See, 187 on its own, when you put it on that skin, you think that's never going to work. But because you've got all the other colours, the pinks and the ivories and all that colour as a base colour, it does work because it melts in. And that's what I would do. Give it a go. And there's loads of other colours that you'll need, but I can't give you them all. I don't like to give too many colours because people stick to them.
Yeah.
What you've got to look at, the picture I've just done, the 3 colours which I had to add, and I never got out to begin with. In other words, I never saw them. On the picture that I was doing, I didn't see those colours.
Yeah.
But gradually, I think, hang on, we need a so-and-so, we need a so-and-so. And that's the way you should do it. Get your idea, you know, the whites and the pinks and the 187s usually is a good colour to use. And then add your other colours as you go along. You see, there is a colour like 169. Now, 169 is a fierce colour. But if you put it together with a 187, it can produce some really attractive tones. You know, play with it. This is the idea, and you've got to play with pictures.
Interesting.
I hope that helps. Did I say ivory as well? I don't think I did. But ivory is another important colour there.
Give it like creaminess.
Yeah, cream, yeah. White, ivory, pink. You know, those are the sort of colours that start. That's assuming, of course, you're going to use the ombre paper.
The sand colour ombre.
Yeah, if you're not using ombre, you've got a whole new set of rules, really.
Which we just talked about recently on the blog about different base colours.
Oh.
We had the thing about different base colours for darker papers and various things like that. The rules change slightly.
They do, yes.
And this is also up as a blog as well.
Oh, great.
The advice that you gave.
Well, we're going to be showing people some darker papers sooner or later when you get to do it. So people will be able to see how it works.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. This is from Linda, another child. This is Linda's picture. She said, I would appreciate your comments. This is my first portrait using pastels, as I usually use graphite. That's interesting.
Well, it shows.
Yeah.
I might say.
Skin tone was difficult, for sure, but so is the fabric. The colours in this photo are not great. There is actually a blue background. So obviously this is a problem when you get the photograph not giving an accurate representation of the colours. But skin tones. Couple
of points I'd like to bring up. You've done really well to change that into a proper skin tone instead of a red, which is predominant on the photograph. But there's 2 things I want to point out to you. One is, if you look at the cheek, left-hand side, under the eye. Yeah. Not on that, on the photograph.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks as though, and this is because I think it's a flash photograph.
There's a light.
Flash photograph hits it smack on. It looks like he's got a really big boil on his cheek. You say, it can't be a boil, that's his cheek, Colin. But that's what it looks like. Unfortunately, you've done the same thing on yours. You see that? Now, on a photograph, you accept those things, and you don't even say, oh, that looks like a boil. But on a picture, on a painting, someone will pick it out.
It's
you've got what
shows
you've
up
done with it.
more because you haven't got. Yeah, it's a photograph.
You've got to watch this, Linda. As an artist, it's your job to do the interpretation. Very easy to do. Very easy to get out of. You lose that area. Can you put your
where on the picture?
No, on the photograph again. It's going to be pretty obvious when you look at the picture. Above that white, there we are, that bit there.
That line there.
Now, if you get rid of that, melt it in, the whole picture would change. Not on the photograph, on your picture.
Yeah, yeah. The harshness of that line that seems to give that 3D.
And I bet you never saw that. You don't see it. But it's all the things you do when you're analysing a picture. You could do also with a little more strength on the right-hand side of the nose. It's a little bit too weak. In other words, follow the photograph. Follow the photograph because you've got a good photograph there. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is the fabric. You were talking about fabric. It's really hard. I'm not sure whether you've done it, but certainly I would have put grey under that blue. I wouldn't have put the blue on. I would have put the grey on. We talked about this before, haven't we? Grey being a neutral. Well, there's a very good example of you changing something to what you consider is blue and putting blue on. Now, it could be, and you'll probably correct me, that you did put grey underneath it. Well, what I would do, and I would be as close to that as I could get, because I don't think that's a bad colour. I would have put the probably the 230 on to start with, and then I would have put 233 on. Then I would have put some blue into that, and you'll find the blue would be more like the colour in the photograph than it would on your picture. It's a bit too rich.
I see. Yeah, neutralise it a bit.
But you're right. Fabric is hard, but there's lots and lots of fabric on the website. You've just got to look through the members site. There's lots of fabric. There's a lot more coming up too. And I think there's a picture I think it's in July, which is lovely. You're going to love this. A Victorian portrait of someone playing
Victorian playing cards, yeah.
With a lot of fabric in that. You'll see that later on. And it's not the same as that, but it's still, you get an idea of how you can produce fabric. I hope that's helped.
Yeah, I think that's quite useful advice. Thanks, Linda. I hope that's helped. Okay, picture from Wendy. Wendy's done the St. Peter's Church. I would really like Colin's feedback. I love this painting and it would be a 2018 Christmas card. As I am a Thanet resident, I really wanted to have a go at this. The areas I found most challenging were the horse and carriage. I knew that if the horse turned out rubbish and unrecognisable, then the whole picture would be ruined. Thank you for the helpful advice on my fisherman painting. I am taking Colin's advice on board regarding the cliffs. I can't wait to upgrade my membership now to cover the animals, portraits and still life.
Oh, well, you're doing exactly the right thing, upgrading your membership, I mean, because the portraits and still life and the animals will help you enormously in things like the horse particularly, and other things, but particularly the horse. Now, the fact, what I see with your horse is you've done a really good job, you've followed it, and it looks like a horse, doesn't it? That's the important thing. It's a little too hard. It's a little bit too in your face. What I would do if I were you is, if you've got a putty rubber, is get your putty rubber out and just dab it on the horse. Work it to a point and dab it over the horse. What you'll do is it'll lighten it and it'll look a little bit more like mine. Now, if it doesn't look like mine, it means that you haven't got an undercolour there, which I think you probably have.
Yeah.
Having done that, you can then put a little bit more 187 on it. I think it was 187 I used on that, or 283, one or the other, or even both. And you'll find you'll be able to turn it out like mine. Another thing that will happen, and you don't necessarily have to worry too much about it, if you've got a colour shaper. I'm thinking of it, if you've got an ivory colour shaper, drag the colour from the horse onto the harness, because it's a little bit, again.
Ah, I see.
You know, it's chalk and cheese we were talking about earlier. We've got chalk and cheese there. If you look at mine, the harness is much more subdued.
I see what you mean. Yeah,
Two things there that will help you enormously.
That's benefit the colour shape.
I've got to tell you, that's a lovely picture. People are going to love that.
Ah, yes. You're going to make a beautiful Christmas card.
It will be, yeah.
Yeah.
But you've done a lovely job. I like it very much.
Well done, Wendy. I hope that tip's very good, and for other people watching as well. The putty rubber is a tool that we don't talk about very often, but it's very useful.
I show it very often. I do show on the video. So you just get a bit of putty rubber and just do. It's the only time you can use a putty rubber. You can't use it to erase with it, and you can just relieve some. Yeah, and it works really well. You don't want to start putting a rubber on it. That's the worst thing you do.
Yeah.
You know, an ordinary eraser.
Well, especially something as dark as that as well. Yeah.
I would leave it alone rather than do that. So if you haven't got a putty rubber, don't do it.
Yeah. Lovely job. Well done, Wendy. Okay. Taking a break from feedback. This is Lauren's picture. She's sent over to us and she said, I'd like to do a study on a specific dog, but I'm struggling as to what colours I would use for my base. I've never worked with pastel pencils before, and I did Colin's free Jack Russell yesterday, which has inspired her. I look forward to hearing from you. So this is Lauren's picture. We did a blog on this as well.
Oh, will you be able to read the blog? I would suggest you do read that blog, because we discussed colours in there, didn't we?
We did.
And what colours you should use. But there is one thing, the reason I asked Steve to put this onto the site is because something that you may not have seen. Now, he's a lovely dog, beautiful animal, but there's something wrong with the nose area. Now, if you study that, the nose looks as though it's been tweaked.
Slightly turned, isn't
like
it?
that. Yeah, just a little bit like that. Now, it could be that the dog has done that naturally. He may have just turned his nose or whatever.
Yeah.
But whatever happened, if you represent that exactly as you see, someone's going to pick that up. Like the boil on the face just now.
Yeah.
It's the same thing's going to happen. And it's not going to look right. So what I would suggest you did there, everything else is all right. It's just that nose that's tweaked a bit. If you're not really sure how to do that, and it shouldn't be too difficult to straighten it up, then go to the internet and find the same pose on any dog and get the shape of the nose right, if you can. Look at that, because it does need to
come over.
I just want to get hold of it and go like that.
Yeah. If you're really good with Photoshop and photo editing, then you probably could.
Can I help? I don't know if I can help, Steve. This is the way to tell. If you go from the top of the head, the middle between the ears, right at the middle, right in the middle. That's not in the middle. Yeah, no, a little bit further over that way. Right a bit. It's like the golden shot. You don't. Really
I don't remember.
You wouldn't. Right. Anyway, now what you do is you come down here and you follow a direct line round to top of the nose. No, you're going wrong now.
It's very hard to draw a straight line with this.
Is it? Oh well, never mind.
I tell you what.
No, don't do that. You can't do it with a straight line because they've got contours on them, Steve.
Oh, okay.
No, you can't do it. Forget that. Forget what I said. I'll explain it to you though. As you come down, you come down to the middle between the two eyes.
Yeah.
Now he's moving slightly to the right.
Yeah.
In fairness.
Yeah.
So it would be just a smidging the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably spot on. Now what you've got to do is exactly the same with the nose. You've got to go in the same idea. Now, if you look at that crease on the nose, put your arrow on the crease of the nose, the crease the other side, that crease, middle. You see how far away that is from the middle? From the middle,
yeah. I mean, yes, it wouldn't be in the middle, but it wouldn't be that far over.
It would
naturally, would it?
No, it would be just a little bit. No, a little bit further over than that. They're not far off. They're not far off.
We could do this all day, Dad.
Well, let's do it. It's good fun.
I don't think
we lose all our customers,
this.
But never mind. No, but you see, I think you're understanding what I'm saying. So, as an artist, these are the kind of things you pick up. Now, if the dog, let's say this was for somebody, and you went back to them and say, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to use a little bit of artistic license to just change the nose slightly.
Yeah.
And if they said to you, no, you don't do that. That's what our dog looks like. I want it exactly the same. Well, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't do the picture.
Yeah.
Because you as an artist, you're putting your life on your line there. Mm-hmm. People are going to look at that later on. And just like the boil on the face earlier, people are going not to see the original photograph. They're going to see your picture, your representation of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, and you mentioned it, I think, in the blog, is when you see it on a photograph, it you don't really notice it, but every time if you're looking at it in a painting, it's going to stand out a lot more. It's going to stand out a lot
and
more.
The artist gets the blame. Every time the artist gets the blame.
There's another thing you mentioned about this picture, which is the collar. You would take the...
Yes. What would you do about the collar? You see, in a situation like this, do you put the collar or don't you put the collar? Well, if you take the collar away,
the fur, yeah.
Now, you've got to assume that because you can't see it.
It's quite low down as well on the dog anyway, isn't it? You've got quite a lot of head of the dog.
Yeah, so what you could do is kind of chop it. Just above the collar. Just above the collar, you could cut that bit out and you could just sort of fade it out into a, my usual cloud.
Yeah.
There is another way you could do it. You could, again, go on the internet and find the same pose and see how someone without a collar, a dog without a collar.
Yeah.
Or you could put a collar in. But if you put the collar in, you could put the collar without the dingle-dangle there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would work. I think the problem with that is it makes it too far between the bottom of the chin and the picture. You really have to complete that other blue name tag. I imagine it is.
Yeah.
You can't just cut that one off. But it's things to think about.
Yeah. Before
you do any picture, really, you should be looking at a picture and saying, what can I see that's going to create a problem?
Mm. It's good advice. Yeah, this is really good advice. I'm glad we included that. Okay, excellent. Well done. Let us know how you get on, Lauren, with that picture. Okay, this one is from Brian. Brian says, "Hi, Stephen and Colin. I did this picture of the famous lighthouse at Peggy's Cove in Nova Scotia, Canada. I also did this on the A3 Engrais paper, which I bought from your shop. It was nice to use a bigger size paper, especially for a scene like this. I had a lot of fun doing this piece, and parts of it were very challenging, but overall I'm very happy with the way it turned out. I noticed my straight horizon line, a tip that Colin gave me on one of my older pieces. I guess what I want to ask Colin is, if he notices on the original picture, the texture of the foreground rocks is very detailed and intense. When I decided to draw this, I used the grain of the paper to help create this effect. I think it worked out pretty well. Colin, would you have done it this way, or how would you have tackled this rocky foreground? Plus, any other comments about my drawing would be appreciated."
All right. Well, a couple of little things then I'd like to point out to you. First of all, something that I couldn't make out when I first looked at it. What is that? Can you go there, see?
Over here? Yeah.
That's it. Now, that bit there, now we know it's a wave, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like one. It looks like another rock. If you look at the photograph, that also looks weird. So what do you do in a situation like this? Leave it out, folks. Leave it out.
It's another example of looking at a picture and going, what's going to create a problem?
That's going to create a problem. It would look better without it. I love the wave down here. The one that's splashing down here. Yeah. That's more natural. That's fine. And all the little ripples, they're fine. They're great. But that one, get rid of it. Or don't put it in, one or the other. It doesn't create a problem. You look at something, you say, well, if I take it out, what am I going to put in place? Well, it's easy. You just continue the rock along. Those background rocks, I would have made them a little more contrast, a little bit too much the same. If you look at the picture, you'll see there's a lot more contrast there. You don't have to do it as much as that, but a little bit of contrast is a good idea. Another thing is the foreground rocks. Those crevices could be, you could probably go across there with a colour shaper and just melt them a little bit. They're a little bit in your face. Anything that's a foreground in the landscape anyway, anything that's in the foreground is the first thing you see. You know, it's right in your face. You've got to be, it does create a bit of a problem. One other little thing though that I would do is when you get reflected water, it's always darker than what's reflecting above.
Right.
Now yours isn't. If you look at the water in the picture.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you mean.
You don't have to have it as dark as that.
No.
That is a bit, because the whole picture has got a lot of contrast in it. You don't have to make it as dark. But you've made yours as light, certainly as light as the sky. It just wouldn't work that way. You've got to make that just a little darker.
Easy to do at this point?
Yeah. No, you could do it. I would put grey on. one of the greys, 233 probably, and darken it. You see, the problem is
you've got the base in.
Hmm?
Is it that you've already put the base colours in, or could you put?
No, you probably go across that.
Yeah.
I mean, the point I'm making is that it is too light. It's up to Brian, really, as to whether he does actually do anything about it. It kind of looks, you know what it looks like there? Someone's put laid a mirror on there, which would, in fact, reflect almost exactly the same as you see.
Yeah.
But water's not like that. It would be...
Yeah, I'd never considered that before, but now that you've pointed that out, that is really interesting, how the colour changes. The tone changes.
Well, once again, Brian, you've given us a lot of food for thought. And it's you've done a lovely sky. Well done on the sky. Maybe a little bit bluer would have been nice, because you could have used the contrast between the white side of the lighthouse and the sky. So it's been a little bluer. These are things you can think about before you tackle it.
Yeah.
Think, look, I've got a nice white lighthouse there.
Yeah.
How nice would that be if it stood right out? And the only way you're going to make it stand out is to make the sky a little bluer.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of tips. Thanks, Brian. We always get a lot, there's
That's
a lot of advice.
I thank Brian for it.
It's really good. All of these tips are really interesting, and you can take these with you to the next picture.
And we're being hypercritical as well. I mean, anybody looking at that would think, wow, what a lovely picture. Which it is.
It's clearly of a landmark here in Nova Scotia. People will recognise it in the area.
You see, if it was me, if I was doing that picture, could you do some editing on the other one for me? Cropping, yeah. Crop it for me. Come just above that line there. That's it. That's fine. Now, come in a little bit on that side, just a little bit, and just a little bit on the other side. Just a little bit. Leave some of the light there because I like that. That's it. Lovely. Right, get rid of it. That's what I would have done. Now, all your problems are solved. I've solved a big problem. But you see what I mean? Now, what you're doing is focusing now on the lighthouse.
Yeah.
The lighthouse is the thing. That's the nice bit. Never be frightened to do any cropping. Never be frightened to do that. I'm doing it all the time. I've in fact I've been looking at pictures, and I've keep cutting them down, chopping bits off. I put a bit back on sometimes, and I chop them again until I've got it exactly as I want it. What's the focal point? I say, what are people trying to see? And sometimes you can chop the whole lot, right down, but that would have made it a better picture, I think. I mean, it's a lovely picture anyway, Brian, but
yeah, lovely. Thanks, Brian. Okay, a couple more then to go. This is Glenda's picture. Again, another one asking for some advice on what colours to use for this liver-coloured Springer Spaniel. So she's having a bit of trouble getting this colour.
Yeah, you're going to have a problem too. This is a bit like the chocolate Labrador, isn't it? You've got that kind of livery, rich, reddy brown.
Yeah. And
we haven't got a colour like it, so you've got to make it up. Now, in a situation like this, you put grey on, and I would use the, I think I would use the 270 and 273. It doesn't really matter if you did use the 230 and the 233. This is for the liver colour. All right, you've got to start putting that on. That will give you a base colour. I'm assuming again that Glenda's using our same colour paper. If she isn't, this won't apply. Once you've done that, you've then got to put the browns on. Now, there's colours like 187, 186 can go on. You can also then add 169, and that's the one that can turn it like a mauvey tone. Okay. Then you can use 283, and you can try 176 or 177 for those colours. I would do it on, and eventually you'll probably end up with using a bit of black as well in there. Don't be frightened to use black if you want a really rich colour, because you can use the black and then you can put the colour back on top of the black. Yeah. So the black acts as a cushion, and you've got to play with it. So but if you look at the right hand side of that, Steve, on that ear, you can see 187 there. Now I've mentioned it, but it's not just 187.
No,
You've got to put those other colours in as well.
And the grey underneath.
Well, the grey's important as a base colour. If you don't put that grey, everything you put on top of it is going to be, wow, sunglasses on.
Yeah.
You've got to subdue that. And you get a clue, really, from the centre line, where you've got that white centre line coming from the forehead to the snout. And either side of that, you can see the grey.
Yes.
Very clearly.
Yes.
So if you can see it there, you know that
it's got to be in the other. Yeah. That's a good, very good point. Yeah. Thanks, Glinda. All the best with that. Okay. Yeah, last one for today. This is from Lynn. Now, Lynn sent us a picture saying that she was having trouble doing this horse portrait that we've got here on the screen. And she's having extreme trouble getting the pastel pencil to leave marks on the paper, doing the horse with the black mane. I'm following Colin's instructions all the way, and Colin's pencil looks effortless in the way that the black is taken to his page, but mine won't mark at all. It's like using a whack pencil and trying to mark on top of it. What would you suggest I'm doing wrong? Then Lynn sent another email, as I requested she send us her work, which is what you're seeing there on the left. And she said, I've had a little fiddle with the eraser since, but I am in the process of starting it over again, as this one looks not right. The black just won't take. I've been using less pressure to see if that helps, although I don't think it was I was pressing very hard. So any suggestions, gratefully appreciated.
Well, one of the things you've got to remember is that I use the ombre paper, you're using the ombre paper, so why doesn't yours react like mine does? And the very simple reason is you've overdone the greys. Now, once you put the grey on, if you look at mine for the minute, let's not look at yours. My picture do that part of it, that's it. Now in there, I would have used two colours, lightly, I emphasise, lightly, don't put pressure on it, you just put a little bit of colour on. That would have been 230, and in the dark areas would have been 233, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use 270, but let's go for 230, or light grey and mid-grey.
Yeah.
So all the light areas, you'd have a very little of the 230, and on the dark areas you'd have a base colour of 233 or 273, but we'll go for the mid-grey.
Mm-hmm.
Having put that in, then you put the darker colour on top. Now I didn't put black on top of that, I would have put probably 181, I imagine, and I go straight in with 181 on top of the mid-grey to start with. Once that's in place, you can then put the mid-grey on top of the light grey. You see what I'm saying here? So you're not putting too much colour on. Mm-hmm. It could have been blended. That's when you can put the black on. It would never work the way you got that. You've got too much base colour. And not only that, I suggest that probably the base colour, you've pressed quite hard with it. In other words, you crushed the paper. And this is a typical, when you crush the paper and you go try to get it dark enough and put the black on,
yeah,
it doesn't work. It would just skid across it.
Well, Lynn does say that she didn't think she was pressing lightly because it is quite hard to tell, I suppose. But it's not always necessarily if you're pressing hard, but if you're overworking the colour, then that acts the same way, doesn't it?
There's an easy way to find out. Get a piece of spare ombre paper and do exactly what I just told you.
Yeah.
Just the mane. You don't have to even shape it. You just rub it on there.
Yeah, and see.
Now, the thing is, I have done it. I've done it on video. You can actually see me doing it.
Yeah.
So what you've got to say is, well, if Colin's done it and I've seen him do it, it must be me. It's something I'm doing wrong. Now, I've just told you what I think it is.
Yeah. Practice that. Yeah, that's a good point to practice that.
Yeah.
Just that section, just to see. If it is the pressure, if it is, to experiment.
I can tell you it is pressure. There's no question about it. It is the pressure, because we've had this before. If you can't get the dark colours on, it means that you've overworked your base colours.
Right. General tip as well. That's something general.
Even I've been playing with pastel mat recently. Now people say, "Oh, pastel mat's really good. You can put as many colours." You can't. You can't do that. I couldn't do that. If I got to one point of my picture in pastel mat when I could see that I wasn't going to get the colour back on again. And that taught me a lesson. I thought, no,
there's a limit.
There's a limit, even to the pastel mat. There's a limit to how much you can use. So you've got to be careful. You've got to, and I would certainly suggest that you do a test piece first of all. Don't start your picture again if you haven't already done it until you check that out. And another thing, if I was know that would be a problem, I'd do that bit before I did the ears.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't do it that way.
But if you were unsure,
just test it out. Test the situation before you take it on. Anyway, I hope that helps.
Yeah. Thanks, Lynn. That's it for this week. Wow.
My goodness.
We covered a lot this week. So I think this is a record.
We've got our money this week, see?
So, as always, this feedback show is a service that we're providing for members of our website, and we've just recently changed our membership structure so that there's no recurring plans. So if you buy a month, then you get access for a month and then it expires, and you can extend that membership another 3 months or a year if you wish. So if you want to learn more, go to our website, colinbradleyart.com. And we'll continue to do these shows as long as there's work coming in, and there seems to be a lot coming in at the moment. So do keep them coming in, and we'll see you on the next feedback show. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Bye for now.